So today I'm going to talk about the thing with things. It happens to be that I am a designer at a company called The Incredible Machine, of which I'm 50%, and we design, or we try to design, whatever the world is going to look like when it becomes all connected. So, the Internet of Things. Some may have heard of it, some may not, but imagine a world where everything is going to be connected, where everything is going to be amazing. You just take out your phone and the lights will turn on, a pizza will be ordered, a masseuse appears at your doorstep. So that is the world of the Internet of Things. And I'm into that. Well, all right. Now, let's get something clear. I'm an optimist in this field. I'm passionate about this. I'm a nerd. I'm a designer, which means all day we're like hacking and coding along how to make our lives work. But we have been in this field for a while, and it has been a bit of a rocky road to get here. Well, what we think is the Internet of Things is great. There are great opportunities, there are great stuff we can do with it. We're doing some amazing things with people in the audience here. Oh, am I? Yes? Am I? Yeah? No, I hear myself back and reverbing. Anyway, but now being a couple of years in this field of the Internet of Things as a professional, we think not everything is going, heading in the right direction. And I had an interesting experience a couple of days ago. I was presenting at a conference in Hamburg, and I was interviewed on stage, and the interviewer asked me, so, tell me, what connected stuff do you have at home? And I had to say, well, yeah, none at all. I don't have that stuff at home. I don't see the added benefit. So, what I think is that as a designer and as developers and entrepreneurs in this field, we have a duty to do our best and make the Internet of Things work in the interest of people and not in the interest of the robots. And the reason why I'm saying this is because it's a very interesting field, but it's basically business decisions that drive this field forward and not what we as people would like to have. So like I said, I'm one half of The Incredible Machine. We're a design consultancy based in Rotterdam. Rotterdam, I have to say it now. I live in Delft. And we work on the Internet of Things. And just for those who think, oh man, I heard that term 16 times already and I don't know what it is, let me get you up to speed. So think a very simple application, if we connect physical things to the web, is you can take a little app and you can turn on the light. Very simple remote control. It's a little pulse, it goes through your app and it goes through a server somewhere in the United States. NSA drops in here and then you turn on the lights and they know you're home. So the other thing is, what if we have not remote control, but remote sensing? So this is a more common implementation where you put sensors into everything and we generate data. So this is my office, not my home apparently. I sit in my chair, it's processed by the NSA, they say, all right, he's home, put on the lights. So that's, and then we say, no, but my thing is smart. Well, let me clarify a bit the term smart, because I don't think turning on a light bulb with your phone is something smart, but I can break a case for something smart. So we have my chair telling the NSA he's home, turn on the lights, and now, all right, he may know he's home, so I know I'm on my own chair. So this is a bit like, we're all in this field of like nerds, designers, scientists. We kind of know the Lego bricks now, so from here you can take it on your own. But now, oh wait, yeah. So what's interesting, what's happening is a couple of years ago we were talking about these simple applications, these simple connections. But what we see, what's happening now, is that at a rapid pace, all these different things and people and apps and algorithms are talking together and may in fact be actually forming an Internet of Things. It's like for 99.9% just part of the web as we know it, so don't worry, it's not a completely new thing that you're unaware of. It's not Skynet, but it's like it's in the cloud. Lots of things are talking together, and this has implications. We've been in this field now for a couple of years, and we see it's rapidly accelerating. The reason why this is so urgent and so new is not because these ideas are particularly new, but it's basically the fact that the connectivity is becoming cheaper, chips are becoming cheaper, the computing power to make all this possible is getting cheaper, which basically lowers the marginal costs of adding connectivity to a physical thing. So a couple of years ago, you could like fit a tracking sensor in your rental car so you know where it was. I think somewhere around next year, we can put a tracking sensor in a glass to know if you drink enough. And so to give you a little like idea on the train of thoughts we had in the last couple of years, I'm going to try to illustrate what's happening in the field of the Internet of Things in the good, the bad, and the ugly. Starting with the good. What's so good about the Internet of Things? What makes me so excited about this field? Why do I want to be here? This is a thing that happened a couple of weeks ago, and I think it's a really like a funny development. Philips designed a toothbrush for kids that had a Bluetooth connection in it, and when kids brushed their teeth, they played a game on their iPad. Philips issued a new game because children were brushing their teeth too much. How awesome is that if you can leverage technology to make kids brush their teeth too much? Another thing, I think 99% of this whole IoT field is not happening in the home. It's not happening at the consumer level market. It's basically optimizing processes in businesses, in production. But one implementation I'm very excited about is what John Deere is doing. John Deere is now shipping sensors with every tractor, every possible equipment they make, to make sure that farmers have access to data on their crops, on their fields. And that basically allows farmers to do farming with less fertilizers and less water and have higher yields. And I think that's a good thing. Another great example is these pill bottles that help people remember to take their medication. Of course, we've known these examples, but this is a very well-designed, not creepy piece of technology that actually works. And it also enables to do whole new types of business. This is actually half of this idea comes from Amsterdam. It's a bike made by Van Move. I don't know if you know the bicycle brand. And they now equip their bicycles with a sensor and a little chip that allows you to lock and unlock it on a distance. And now you can rent your bicycles to your friends. I think this is great stuff. This is like an example of make the best possible use of all the stuff that's around us. And like we're now getting a bit on the edge of what's interesting in the application. This is an example of Amazon. Amazon now has a little button that you can order and you can put on your fridge, or you can put on your cat litter box, or you can put on your washing machine, and just press the button and it will be delivered at your doorstep. And I say this is a bit on the edge of what I think is what we want to have, because this puts very much the user in control. But what's happening now, Amazon just filed a patent to pre-ship stuff to your doorstep before you order it. And this is no joke. They actually are trying to make an algorithm that allows you to that allows them to ship, like, all right, they think, all right, it's your, I don't know, you haven't ordered cat litter in, let's say, a week or a month, and usually you order it every 3 weeks. So let's put like some cat litter in the warehouse close to your house, because we kind of expect that you're gonna order this stuff, and then it's gonna be shipped sooner to your house. So this is a bit on the where, like, I'll talk about this later when the thing becomes a bit of an ambassador to interesting servers. Well, now, let's move into what I would call the bad. And it's a very sad website. I don't know if you know it. It's called the Internet of 404s. It's a collection of devices that no longer work because the servers go out of business. But first, we're going to talk about this later. Let's say if we apply the rules of the web, because that's what we're talking about when the IoT, we'll apply the rules to the web, to the physical world. But those rules don't necessarily translate into a world where I need to access my front door. Well, I need to, buy cat litter when I need to, I don't know if my child is home from daycare, because stuff like this would happen. Actually, people got locked out of their houses because they updated their phone to iOS 9. And maybe, and this is, we don't need a chip in everything. Like I said, this field is fueled by business interests, and everybody thinks they can reach a competitive advantage just by putting a chip in their thing. Barbie was on the cover of New York Times magazine last week because Barbie now has a brain. There is now a Barbie that you can talk to. A Barbie that is your best friend, unconditionally. So why would you need like nagging physical friends that don't... I kind of feel my opinion reflected in the audience here. But as a designer in the field of toys too, like one of our biggest clients is Lego. We're in this field of researching technology and toys and how we can put those together. I'm passionate about learning kids something about make like an awesome experience with their toys, not making like a robot friend. And this is, well, to come back to the Internet of 404s, things die long before they're broken. And that's a really sad thing. Imagine we have a chair that you can no longer sit on because the firmware is outdated. And this is what's happening. We're attaching like software to physical products, and when the software runs out or runs something like illegal emission tests, then suddenly the physical object has a defect, or is not working accordingly. This is one of my these are my favorite projects. I don't know if you know, it's called Little Printer. It was launched by a studio in London called Doesburgh, the British Experimental Rocket Group, who did there was a printer that had a little server, and you can send messages to it, and it would print out a little newspaper in the morning, or a little comic, or whatever. You can send a text message, and then the company went bankrupt, and they took the printer with them. So at some day, all the faces turned white, and it was really sad. So another thing that we've seen is that when we put the internet into physical things, they become a liability. They become a peephole, an entrance to whatever like hacker wants to be in your house. And this is a really sad example of baby monitors who were hacked in the US, but also in the Netherlands, where people could just access a baby monitor and scream at someone else's baby. This is bad. And last week, Wired published an article about that they assessed the security issues around baby monitors, and they found that 40 brands, I didn't know even there were 40 brands in baby monitors, didn't have the security in check, and were basically, like being a Trojan horse in the house of people's. But that's like the bad, and the bad is, let's say, preventable, or like it's a hiccup. It's a thing we need to deal with. It's not a reason that we shouldn't have the Internet of Things, but it's a thing that we keep in mind, and it's a thing we try our hardest to make sure we don't do this. But there's also a thing called the ugly. And the ugly is what I think is where we see the business interests that want to put this smart home into our home, or that want to put this tracker into your airport, is not working in the interest of people. And like what I said, this is now, like we are presenting a lot of business conferences, and what we see is like these kind of graphs are like popping up at the presentation over and over again. Businesses telling each other, there is 20 trillion devices out there waiting to be connected. And they were like, don't do it, don't. But this is what's happening. And, you know, like people want, like businesses want to have the web, but then in a physical way. They want to have Google Analytics in a physical store, which is not necessarily bad, but it's like, it's not in your interest that they're tracking you, it's in their interest. You are not like, you're the product. And like just like on the web. And privacy hasn't become a unique selling point yet. We're not selling the most honest whatever. No, we're selling the connected bulb. This is an example of Samsung selling a smart TV a couple of years ago, who had in their EULA, end user license agreement, they said, all right, if you want to have a private conversation, don't do it in front of your television. It's voice controlled, and we tap into conversations into your house. Oh yeah, and by the way, it's processed by a third party, so we don't know if they can be trusted. People addressed the issue and they changed the EULA, not the feature. Now I have to give a little bit of disclaimer that they set things right after a while, but it was of course a stupid step. And then security, like we think we are, like we hear like companies say, oh, we have our security in check. We don't know how to do that yet. We have a good guess. We have some security on the web, but you know, like we don't have security figured out yet in a proper way, and people don't tend to care about it because, you know, what should I care about? Like that people know that I turn on my lights in my living room, or that I sit in my chair. No, but it becomes an issue. Like Ashley Madison was very apparent that you don't want to have that published, but it's just a matter of waiting, like just a matter of time to figure out, like you don't want everything to be published on the web. So the other thing is, if you buy these internet connected products, they're usually not just one object made by one company who listens in on this one service. No, it's usually a whole network of stakeholders that's around this one object. And an example is like this TomTom. So who's involved in, like, when we have I love TomTom. I have no issues with TomTom, but you don't know if you buy this little object, and if I would screw it apart and I would look into these internals and I would deduct whatever components in there, I wouldn't know who's listening in on my TomTom, but apparently the Dutch police does, because a couple of years TomTom gladly sold the anonymous data to the Dutch police, which I never opted in for. Yeah, with an update saying, check the privacy policy. Oh yeah, you didn't do that? Yeah, it's your problem. So the point I want to make with this, especially when it turns ugly, like we were in the business of designing things. But after a while, we figured out it's not about the things, it's about the system. The things are just a thin layer between people and what's behind it. And what's behind it may have completely different implications than what this beautiful thing may be. I think Uber is a great app. It's a great deal that you get as a user. But it's an algorithm that basically made drivers into their puppets. And they have to settle with the price the algorithm gives them. And these are actual people who are now dependent on an algorithm that defines, well, nobody's asking for a cab ride, so we'll lower your price below the cost point, and then it's your problem. So the big problem is, as we speak, the Internet of Things is not yet designed for people. It's a system, it's IT, and it has the potential to do great stuff, to make children brush their teeth until their gums bleed, but it's not yet a thing that's that inherently exists for the beauty of people. And if someone asks you, if you talk to someone and about their Internet of Things product, and they try to explain, and they say, well, yeah, I press here, and then something happens in the cloud, and then something happens. Well, I've got news for you: there is no cloud. So what we say as designers, we say we need better things. We need to try hard to design things and make things that we want people to have. And it's not easy, it's hard, because as a designer you may not always be the person that's in the boardroom making the decision on which connection we're going to draw. But we should try our best, and that's why we, and with we, I mean a group of 9 designers, we sat together and we drafted a manifesto that we think the Internet of Things should be designed. And we try to take a standpoint. I forgot the paper versions, but you can check it out on iotmanifesto.org. Because we don't want to be, we don't want to be in the end dependent on technology to make decisions for us. Because we want this Earth and not this one, but eventually we want this. So thank you for your attention. I hope we have a good discussion afterwards. Oh, by the way, if you like this topic, I'm co-organizing a conference on this December 4th here in Amsterdam. Shameless self-promotion.
Any questions?
Hi, good evening.
Hi.
I have a rather probably, I don't know, kind of venturing on philosophical question for you. So you have all of this data, which is, kind of collected by users, for example, even social media, because essentially what it is that Facebook thrives on whenever it is that they're selling their advertisements on is the fact that you're posting, you're an influencer, and essentially they want to be targeting you, in order to kind of advertise their products. So I guess my question is, how do you eventually see the user being integrated into this whole kind of chain of the value chain? So that is like, at what point do you see the user making profit from this?
That is a great question. Actually, that is a really good question, and I don't have a clear-cut answer. I hope at some point people will figure out a way to put people in charge again a bit on what's theirs and what's their data. And I know we don't care about it enough. Even I'm a Facebook user, I'm a Google user. But I think at some point we'll have some convention around this, that we know what we generate and what's our data. And maybe we can make the trade-off, I hope so, that I can say, all right, I bought this amazing Philips toothbrush. All right, I allow you access. You can listen in on my toothbrush and then, replace me, like ship me free toothpaste. I don't know, but at the moment, I don't think there's something that an existing model for this. I have an interesting anecdote though. I was speaking to another expert in this field, and he had a very interesting. He just immigrated from the United States to the Netherlands, and he said, I disconnected all my accounts, my Amazon Prime, my Google account, my Facebook, whatever, and I left it as an empty ghost in the United States, and I'm now starting over. I'm going to build a new data ghost of myself in the Netherlands, but I'm now starting from the ground up. So I'm going to do some weird stuff. So I'm going to walk up and down aisles in the supermarket just to mess up the... I'm just going to buy diapers en masse and then return them again at the customer service, and then don't explain why I do it. Just to see what kind of advertisement I will have in a couple of years, that I'm totally deranged mental person. So he just moved, so I hope he has some interesting findings on that in a couple of years. His website is called changist.com, so keep an eye on him.
Ja, daarom.